So I became pregnant, and I instantly got rejected. I got told "Oh, am I sure it's my baby? Am I sure I'm pregnant?" He told his mother it was my fault because they're a Christian family. Um, and so my mother kept saying to me, just wait, he'll be better when the baby comes, which is the way my sister and my mother operate their lives. They compromise their whole lives in order to fit in with these men and, just put up and shut up and, get treated any which way you like. This is just the way it is. You just put up with these men. So yeah, I was told that he'll get better once the baby comes. And yeah, so I moved back in with my parents, which was a huge mistake. Um, and yeah, I had my baby and I was very happy and he was very beautiful and nothing improved with his father. It got worse. So I decided to move into my own house. Um, and I would visit his father at his house, and a lot of strange things happened. He would take my son into the lounge by himself, uh, and as well as when I was living with my family, a lot of strange things happened. Um, but yeah, people might interpret what happened differently, so I won't explain what happened. They might just say, "Oh, that was nothing." But I saw a lot of odd things that made sense later on, and experienced a lot of odd things. So, moved into my own place. My son started saying car very early on. He didn't say mom first, he didn't say dad first, he said car, and it was a very high pitched car, 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 and very sort of anxious car. And I thought, oh, he wants to go to the car, he loves cars, he must be obsessed with cars, as you think when you have a baby. But I believe when he was baby, he was trying to tell us already what was going on. So his father would come home every weekend and take my baby to the car. And little did I know what was going on. And so this carried on until my son was 2.5. And I have to tell you, say the other thing separately, but um, one day I went down to the car and my son was as white as a ghost. Like, I literally, the color was drained from his face. He looked sick and he was crying. And I said to his father, "Why is he crying? Why does he look so upset? Why is he as white as a ghost?" And his father said, "Oh, he was trying to get into the back of the car and I wouldn't let him." So I got upset and I said, "Well, what is the big deal about going into the back of the car? Why is he crying because he can't go into the back of the car?" Little did I realize why my son was desperately trying to get into the back of the car. Um, so his father said, "Oh, I've got clean clothes there, and I don't want him walking on the car in the back of the car." So I was like, "Well, is that a reason to make this child so upset that are your clothes more important than your son?" Anyway, we had an argument, and he stormed into the house, and I proceeded to walk down to the coffee shop. And so this, there was another incident before this actually, where my son would always say, "Dad, dad, dad." And I told his father this, and I think this preempted this event. Anyway, I suppose it doesn't make much sense when you weren't there. But from that day, my son had incredible trouble going to the bathroom. And I have videos of him scrunching his body up in an enormous amount of pain trying to go to the bathroom. And I couldn't understand it. So I thought, after that, the very next day, I said to my mom, "Look, he's having a lot of trouble going to the bathroom. I don't know what's happened. I think it might be the sling because I'd carried him in the sling the day before. I think the sling is too small for him and maybe it's stretching his legs or I didn't put it on right, it's not comfortable. And that's the only logical thing I could think of why he was in so much pain. So I said to my mom, just watch him and just make sure he's okay. So this carried on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I took him to the doctor because it kept getting worse. Um, you know, I have so many videos of him in desperate pain trying to go to the bathroom. So this was getting worse and worse and worse. So I took him to the doctor. I said to the doctor, look, you know, he's in a lot of pain going to the bathroom. I don't know what's wrong with him. She examined him. She said everything's okay. There doesn't seem to be any issues. And so I was like, okay. And my mother as well, you know, I would say to her, you know, was he okay today? And she would go, oh, she would always say he's fine. But my mother has never been a very maternal person, and I think it's because her mother was never very maternal. So, if there were any issues, she would have just brushed them off and thought that's just whatever. It's no issue at all. And I'm completely opposite. So this was going on, and one day I was breastfeeding my son. He was a little older than nearing 3. And I just something clicked in my head because I really was trying to figure out why he was in so much pain. Um, and he was breastfeeding and he was holding his private area, and something just clicked. And I said to him, "Is your father hurting you?" Because he was still going to the car with his father every week, and he went like this. And I said, "Where is your father hurting you?" And he immediately like was showing me where his father was hurting him. And I thought, oh no, not again, not again. Now, unfortunately I didn't understand narcissists and sociopaths and psychopaths at this stage, and I immediately phoned his father. And I still thought at that stage, oh, when you confront someone, they'll stop. So I immediately phoned his father and I said, oh, you know, what is going on? Our son has just said that you've hurt him, and that is why he's in so much pain going to the toilet. He immediately went into defense mode, started screaming at me, started bringing up, because I confided him about my sister and my sister's family. He started saying, oh, you've done this before and you're crazy, and you're accusing me and nothing's ever happened. I've never hurt him. And he put the phone down. So I was immediately, my anxiety just went through the roof again. Now, another thing, I said to my son that morning, and you know, every day, just if anyone hurts you, tell mommy. Like, if nobody's allowed to hurt you, not daddy, no one. And, you know, I was just trying to explain to him that no one must touch him. So, what had started happening with my father when I started going back to work, because I didn't go to work for a year. So I went back to work a year late after his birth. My father had started saying that his boss had told him he could come home early from work, and he was coming home early from work the days I was working, so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So my mother didn't understand it, and she was like, oh, your father's coming home early from work on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. His boss said he could have time off and he could finish early. So lo and behold, my son started telling me that my father was hurting him as well. And this is when things started unraveling regarding my family. The truth started coming out, and things started making sense from my childhood. And, this was just a surfacing of the truth. And God says the truth will always be revealed. So my son started revealing the truth about my family, specifically my father at that stage. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I could hardly believe it. I was like, this can't be true. Let me double check. I kept double checking and double checking and double checking, like, are you sure? And we used to call him Bumpy. Is Bumpy hurting you? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, where is Bumpy hurting you? And he would show me that. And I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, is this actually real? Is this actually happening? Am I living in the twilight zone? And so I started saying to my mom, please do not let my father near my son when he comes home early. And my mother was like, oh, why? Do you think that there's an issue with him now? And she started jumping down my throat. So of course the fear comes in. You don't want to discuss it with her because, now you've got my sister's husband, his father, my son's father, all pedophiles. And I was like, you can hardly believe it, but it makes sense when you understand that my sister and I both chose men so similar to my father. I don't know why you do that. I just think you're so familiar with the way people are that you just choose similar people because you don't know how to fit in with normality. You don't know how to fit in with normal human beings that do not abuse. So you attract abusers and you feel comfortable with abusers. So, um, yeah, we were literally surrounded. Um, so I just said to my mom, please, and she's jumped down my throat, so you can't discuss it with her. So then I said to his father, look, let's just stay in the house. Don't take my son to the car. Um, just stay in the house. So by this stage, I was still pretty ignorant. And I would go make coffee, I would go to the bathroom, I would go make lunch, come down, see, his father would stay with him. That night, Daddy hurt me. So whether I was in the house or not, it didn't matter. I honestly thought it would matter. He wouldn't try anything. I could have walked into the room at any stage, but he must have just done it quickly. He would hurt my son. So then I was like, okay, can we please start going to restaurants for lunch when you come and visit? And he was like, okay. So obviously, I'd already raised this with him, so he was aware that I was aware. But I believe these men get a serious high from this, like I've said before, and not even a restaurant would stop him. He would do it under the table when I went to the bathroom or went to pay. My son would come, I would come home and he would say, Daddy hurt me. And the way he would look at my son, there was one event where he was putting my son in the back of the car, and I think he just goes into the zone. It's almost like it's a demonic zone. And my son was desperate to get away, and he was like saying to me, please, let's go to the toy shop. Let's go to the toy shop. And I said, yeah, we'll go to the toy shop in a minute. And his dad leaned over and whispered in his ear, Daddy will take you to the toy shop. Daddy loves taking you to the toy shop. And I looked at this like it was honestly like a demon was looking at my son as a boyfriend. This was his boyfriend. And I was like, can you please close the door? We need to go. So I was so stressed out because now I had my father and my son's father abusing my son. And one day, the final straw, because I was so stressed out, I was honestly driving around thinking I didn't know what to do. And I was still unaware of what social services, police, and courts were like, where there's no protection for mothers or children. But I was resisting reporting because I just thought I could handle it, and I didn't want any outsiders, involved, because the last time was such a disaster, especially the backlash from my family. I didn't want to go through all of that again. It was so traumatic, so traumatic. Um, so the one day my parents were away, and we went to my parents' house, and we were sitting there, and his father came in, and his father was almost crying because apparently one of his friends had died that morning, and he was young, and he was giving me the sob story, and I really honestly felt sorry for him. I didn't realize he doesn't care for anyone. Like, there's no love in that man. Um, so I felt sorry for him, and I was exhausted. I was like, okay, we won't go to a restaurant. I was so sick of going to restaurants. We'll have lunch here, and you can because I can see you're upset. So I'm thinking of him. So I go into the kitchen and make lunch. And while I'm making lunch, I hear my son's father and my son being, he was pushing him on his little motorbike, one of those push motorbikes. And I didn't think anything of it. I was just hearing a lot of noise with the motorbike. And I thought, oh, it's fine. He's not going to do anything. He's upset and, he's had a bad day and whatever. So I was making lunch. I couldn't see into the lounge, but I just heard the noise of the bike going. So I didn't think anything of it. And obviously, I should have been more vigilant. I should have just said to my son, you come and sit with me in the kitchen. But, you give people the benefit of the doubt and you just think, please don't let it be true. And please, this is your child, you don't think you're just going to take advantage at every opportunity. It's so awful. So that night we get home and my son says, Daddy hurt me. So by that stage, I was just done. I was like, this is just beyond a joke. And I phoned the police. And unfortunately, I should never have phoned them. And so the drama started. I phoned the police and I said, look, my son has told me his father's hurt him. This is not the first time. And yeah, and they said they would come over. So we waited and we waited and we waited, and they came over super late. They took all my son's clothes and they said, we're going to go and speak to his father now. So it was really traumatizing because I had to sit there and explain. And of course, it's just my word, it's just my word. And so they said that my son had to go and get examined. So after my son gets abused, he goes to the toilet a lot. Even though he's in pain, he will go to the toilet a lot. So we didn't get called until I think it was 2 days later. Was it the next day? Might have been the next day or the day after.